We are live with another episode. Very special one today, and not because of you, Jamie, because today, I don't know if you saw this, it's the Mini's 64th birthday.
Oh, happy birthday. No, I haven't seen that.
I mean, you're very special too, and I'm excited about this story. Yeah, I'm excited about this story. I kind of didn't do a deep dive because I want to hear it from you. I know obviously a little bit of the background on this car, a special one. I love hearing these kind of stories, and this is why I kind of started this podcast, to hear things like this and how it developed. And so if you guys haven't seen, I don't know how long ago, maybe, I don't know, earlier this year, I saw this Instagram pop up, J_311. And the profile picture is cool, kind of this old, early Mark One, rusty kind of Mini, my style. But I saw, like, in the caption, it's like a long lost family member, kind of hidden in restored in secret kind of thing. And I was like, ooh, interesting. And I've been following along, and I reached out to you, and I'm excited to kind of really hear exactly what's going on with this thing. So Jamie, thank you for being on, man.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's quite a cool story to share, really. I enjoy seeing people's reactions when you tell it, and when people realise that I'm just an amateur as well. I think it shocks them a little bit of the job I took on. But they talk about buying something with your heart, and I think that was definitely one of the things I did with this car.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's funny that you say that about the amateur. I've said this before. I'm only ever been in the mini scene, new minis, old minis, but I don't know. I feel like a lot of kind of amateurs, if you will, jump into a mini. I don't know why. It's like less daunting because it's a small car? I don't know, but I feel like a lot of amateur guys get in and learn a ton of stuff and make amazing restorations out of these. So kudos to you. I love it.
Yeah, I think one of the things actually when I bought
So
it,
tell me a little bit about this car.
Right. Okay. So where to start? So it's an early Mark One. It was made registered in February 1960, and it sold to somebody in Breconshire, which is on the Welsh borders for those that don't know. So they had it for 5 years, and then it was actually my grandfather that bought it. It's a Morris Mini Minor, just an 850, whole 38 horsepower or whatever it might be. And yeah, my granddad bought it, and at the time he actually taught my grandmother how to drive. She ferried my dad and my two aunts all over the county, to wherever they wanted to go after school and things like that. And I've got some really cool photos, like my dad stood by it in his school uniform. And yeah, they ran it until so yeah, that was 1965. They actually that summer, straight after buying it, flew it over to France and drove it to Italy and back as their summer holiday for a couple of weeks. And I've got photos of that, and that's really cool. And I've actually had a bit of help to track those photos. And then around the early 70s, my granddad painted it in a two-tone, which is where you've seen some of the photos, because it used to be a really lovely old English white. And then he kind of just kept welding it to keep it on the road. So when I actually got it, it was just full of weld patches all over. And around 1977, it just got so rusty that he didn't know what to do and pushed it into a shed. He didn't want to get rid of it, and it sat there until around 96. And my dad tried to rescue it. At the time, he couldn't buy the early body panels. He was really struggling for the money, and he gave it away in around 2000 to a local guy who said he wanted to restore it. And the deal was, he said, if you ever restore it, I want the option to buy it back. And he never did. And anyway, so flash forward now, 20 years from there, and my dad hasn't shut up about this car. He went to every car show and kept saying, "Oh, I wonder what he's done. I bet that guy sold it, la la la." And I thought, let's see if we can find it again. And I tracked down the bloke had actually moved to New Zealand and given it to his son. and I tracked him down. And sort of sent a message, and about 8 months passed, nothing. And then I just got a message out of the blue on Facebook, just saying, hey, you know, what do you think about buying this? It's not a job for the faint-hearted, but I'm getting married, I need some cash, doing up a house, come and have a look. And I just, yeah, it was one of those things where you just go, and we were in the middle of COVID at the time, sort of towards the end of the first sort of COVID lockdowns. Then I just drove, saw it. I had no plan of how to get it away from there or anything. I was like, I've got to do this. So yeah, I bought it, and then the nightmare began.
That's amazing. I've been loving following the pictures, the old pictures of your dad, like you said, in his school uniform, going to school, and you know, just kind of the vintage vibe of these pictures you've tracked down. You know, I think I've seen pictures of your grandmother with it, and like camping or like kind of picnic pictures. It's so cool. So you you kind of hid this from them.
Yeah, so so I bought it, and I thought my thing is, like, my dad, bless him, he's a he takes a long time with a lot of things. He had a lot of stuff on at the time, and I thought, well, I'll get it started. I'll get the job done. And at the very beginning, I really wanted to unveil it done to him. Here you go, Dad, I've done you a car. Because what son doesn't want to do that? And so yeah, I bought it. I kept it hidden from him. I did tell my grandfather eventually, because he's 93, and I would love for him to know that I'd got his car back. So he knew, and my mum knew, and basically me and my mum came up with a deal and said, let's do this. I'm sure that our finances combined will make it work. And we just went for it, and my mum, bless her, just said, let's go for it, let's do it. So yeah, I sent it to a guy to restore that was actually a friend of a friend, because I didn't know where else, and I wanted to get it done fairly sharpish. Had a bit of a nightmare there, but yeah, it all came good in the end.
So you got the car, and you kind of basically jumped right into it, and you sent it off to somebody for like the metal work and things like that, as you kind of restored little bits around the house.
Yeah, so the start of it basically was I got it trailered over to this guy who restored minis, and I was quite happy with their work. And yeah, basically he let me strip it at his site, so I nut and bolt stripped it. It was about a 40-minute drive to my house, so every weekend I go there, take another part off, and then I kind of would research that part. Could I do it myself? Could I restore it myself? And it was all sort of triage at that point. So, do I need a new one because some of the stuff just fell to dust in my hands, or do I try and do it myself? Do I strip it myself? And a lot of stuff I did strip and paint and de-rush myself, get electrical switches working and that sort of stuff. And then the big stuff, so like the engine, researched that, found a guy who could machine that for me, get it rebored, etc. So I lent on specialists where I felt like I didn't want to jeopardize the build, and I didn't want to delay it as well. I probably could have taught myself how to weld, but I'd still be doing it now, and I wouldn't have done as good a job. So I sent it to the experts. Unfortunately, this guy who I initially went to wasn't the expert I thought he was, and nearly a year later I had to go and rescue it from them and take it, actually just cram it into my garage until another slot came up at a really highly respected restorer, who did, as you can see from the photos, a stunning job.
Amazing. Excuse me. Yeah, I mean, it looks great. So you had all these pictures to kind of go off of, and what was your kind of plan? Did you say, hey, I'm doing it like it was rolling off the showroom floor? Because I know that there was a paint job halfway through their ownership that kind of can't quite tell. Is it like a minty green with like a silver or white on top or something like that?
So for me it was back to factory, and the only modifications I've made is I've put twin lead and tube brakes on the front instead of singles, because this was an early car. It had singles, and I mean, people were pretty skeptical about how good twin leading shoes were, let alone singles. So I thought as the back plates were rotten and you couldn't really tell anyway whether it had twins or singles, I thought that was a sensible change. And I've put some 3-point safety belts in there,
Mm-hmm.
just because I don't want to smash my teeth off the dash, because this car wouldn't have had any safety belts at all. But yeah, other than that, I was absolutely stock. Because it's an early car, it's got some really weird tweaks to it compared to a lot of minis, and it catches a lot of people out. So I had to really research that, make sure I got that right, and I didn't go just generic parts off the shelf, because sometimes you couldn't do that. But yeah, it had a funky T-tone in about 73, 4-ish, we think, and that was to match my granddad's Morris Oxford. Again, I got a really cool photo of the two cars next to them, matching paint job with like it was like a minty green and a beige on the bottom. And I've had a lot of people, a lot of followers go, "Oh, you guys do that again? It looks really cool." But for me, it's such an early car. It had to look like, better than the day my granddad bought it. And that holiday, the photos that you've seen, where they're on holiday, I just think it'd be, for me, there's a lot of nostalgia in being able to drive around the car that I know they would have poodled off and had lovely holidays down in Italy and stuff. So, stock throughout, really.
Amazing. Yeah, I mean, if you guys haven't checked out this Instagram, like I said, it's JEU_311. I mean, I'm looking at a picture right now. The Mini's parked on the side of the road with like wildflowers. Is this your grandmother standing next to it with like a lake in the background? Like, amazing
Yeah,
pictures to have. And like you could like recreate these type of things now. I don't know if that's near your house or not, but like amazing to look at that car and know that you're rebuilding it and restoring it. It's so cool to me.
yeah. So that actually we think is the Rhine. We think that's as they were driving down through Germany, that photo. But yeah, so some of the photos are literally the town that's still only 4 miles from my parents' house, where the car's going to live most of its life. And we drove past one of the photo locations the other day on its first journey out, because it's only just hit the road. So I've had a few other people help me. I found one that's in mid Wales that I'm definitely going to go out and recreate. And then there's a few in the Alps that I think are around St Bernard Pass. But yeah, if any of your like followers are wizards on Google Earth and want to find locations for me, then I'll happily take that, because that would be really cool to just go and replicate those photos again.
Yeah, I mean, there's just like family photos, and in the background, there's the Mini sitting outside the garage. It's just the history behind it is top notch, and I love seeing that. What I really want to know is, I know that you kind of hit it and you started and you introduced it to your dad and your granddad. How was their reaction? What did they think?
Oh yeah, so I hid it away, and then it came up to Christmas this year, and it was nearly a full body shot. It was looking really good. And at the time, actually, I was going through chemotherapy. I had cancer over Christmas, and it was just all a bit much
Oh wow.
to carry on with the project without him knowing, and also him being able to just prepare for it as well, because we were looking at paint early New Year, and it was coming to his garage, so we needed to get ready. And yeah, so his reaction, I mean, he thought we were taking him bungee jumping or something. He didn't have a clue. I just said, we're going to take you out for lunch and have a little treat, and I got a thing for you to do first. And I gave him, there's a video actually on my page, I gave him a pair of goggles that had tape all over them so he couldn't see for the last half a mile drive. And then just walked him in, and I've got the original registration plate, so I put that on there and unveiled it. And he opened his eyes, and first thing that shocked him was that my sister was there, because he didn't know they were coming. So my sister's there with my niece and my nephew, and then my wife's there with my little boy. So there's always grandchildren there. He's like, what's going on here? And then he looked around, there's loads of minis. Like, if you've seen the workshop, it's honestly, Dan and the Real Mini Car are the most beautiful workshop. And like looking around, he's like, there's minis everywhere. And then he thought he was doing a track day or something. And then he looked down and went, oh, he saw the reg, and his registration is like, no, can't be. And then that was it. And then it's just from then on. And it's funny because he like looked at it and he was like looking around it, oh my god, and then he was like, oh, there's so much work in this, and then I think it dawned on him like, oh wow, like this was really rotten, wasn't it? And then we went for lunch and he was like telling stories like, oh, well, your nan and granddad, they drove to the Alps, and it's like, yeah, I know, Dad. He's like, oh, and they did da. And I was like, yeah, I know, Dad. He's like, and it's a really early car, and da. Yeah, I know, Dad. So like, for the last 18 months, I've been painstakingly finding out all the little pitfalls of this car and working out its history. So yeah, it was really cool for that. And then it was like, oh crap, I got to get my garage ready. And then we had a winter of just getting it ready, getting it tidy, and getting all these parts ready to come. So once we had a painted body shell, Bill could start. So yeah, it was cool. Really good day.
That's amazing. I can't imagine the feeling. That's just like that's a great Christmas present too. That's fun. What did when did you show it to your granddad?
So pretty much all along, I was showing him photos, and bless him, he kept it so quiet from my dad. Didn't ever mention it, and he didn't ever ask about it either. Really, he just sort of took the update and went, oh, very good, yeah, looks very good. Oh, that's a lot of work, and it'll never be worth what you're spending on it, and all this sort of thing. No, so literally a week ago, so I got it on the road 2 weeks ago, and when I say on the road, like I literally drove it a mile, and then I said to my dad, I was like, the first journey I want to do is to see Granddad, and so yeah, that was it, straight off. So it tootled up the road, 4 mile up the road, first time it's ever been out on the main roads, yeah, he just, yeah, so it's blessed it. I mean, he's really, he can't walk very well, but he came out of his house, and then he's like, oh, I don't know if I'll be able to sit in there, it might be a bit low, and then you could almost tell in his head, he went, oh, screw this, I'm doing this, and yeah, he jumped in and squeezed himself in. I mean, it was his car, and it was like bending his head to get in, and he's a big guy, and yeah, he's like, oh, I don't remember it being this hard to get in, and he said, oh, it was never this good. He said when I bought it, it was never this good. It was already rusting when I bought it, and yeah, he was over the moon. So yeah, very, very cool day. And then that day we got all 4 generations. So my granddad, my dad, me, and my 4-year-old boy, all sat in the car. So and he'll eventually get it from me, hopefully. So never know. 5 generations at some point will be owning that car if we can keep it going.
Epic. I mean, I remember seeing that video with your granddad sitting in it saying that, yeah, this is better than when I got it, and seeing the photos of you and your son with your dad and your grandfather, and it was just such a cool moment to see all the hard work you put in, and then just that's something that every one of them are going to remember for the rest of their lives. Your son's going to grow up with that, and he hopefully he's going to have one day, I don't know if Instagram's going to be around, something probably cooler, but he's going to have pictures of this with his grandfather, with his grandfather, his great grandfather, pictures and all that. It's going to be super cool. That's amazing, and I kudos to you for tackling this job and bringing this back to life on the road and back to your family. Super fun.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it really is. It really is cool, and the whole social media thing. It's brilliant. The support you get as well. So I've had so many things along the way that are just like, why is this happening now? I'm sure people out there that work on minis can relate in some way or another. But every week it felt like, I mean, me and my dad for a couple of weeks on the bounce were just, oh, why? And it was always, we'd always find the problem on like a Saturday evening, and you can't find a part on the Sunday anyway. So it's like, well, that's another week gone then, and it just kind of rolled around like that. And yeah, to just go out and enjoy it, and let people see it, and know that it's not just the car. There's a lot of, I think there's a lot of shows you go to, and there's a car that's just, it's a mini they bought, and it's very nice. To have all this backstory, for me, it makes it a character, makes it its own special thing.
Yeah, it always seems like something goes wrong on the Saturday when you can't get the part on a Sunday. That's always the case.
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of people can out there can would say the same, but some of the reproduction parts as well, you get it and it's like, it doesn't fit, or it's brittle, and sometimes I was diving back in my box of rusty bits to see if actually it was worth the bit that I thought, oh, it's not worth saving that, I'll buy a new one. Now I'm like, oh, maybe I'll try and make it work. But yeah, it's part of the fun. I think that's what people would say.
100%, 100%. One of the pictures I really wanted to ask you about, and I think you mentioned it, but this picture stood out to me, and I thought it was the coolest thing. It's the car driving into an airplane, like into the nose of an airplane, and I think it's when they went on their Italy trip, I think. Tell me
Yeah.
about this story. Like, this is insane. Like, what people did that back then? I didn't know. Like, that seems like it's expensive.
Well, you know, I mean, I asked my granddad that. I said, was that seen as an expensive holiday? And he said no. He said a lot of people did it back then because I don't know whether ferries were expensive or what, but yeah, yeah. So that plane, I assumed it was in the UK and it was them going on holiday. But actually, I shared it on a Facebook page. I think it's called like 1970s road scene or something. I just said, if anyone knows anything about this, it'd be really cool to get a bit more. And somebody came back and went, that's Le Touquet Airport in France. I was like, that's pretty cool, great, I know where it is now. And he went, and that is in summer 65, he says, because I used to fly those planes, and that actual plane went out of service in October 65. And now I know that they bought the car in the February of 65, so it must have been, literally, they must have bought it and gone, we're going into Italy and we're going to fly the Mini out there. And yeah, so yeah, that was the start of their holiday, was landing in Le Touquet over in France and then setting off through the Alps. And yeah, probably 50 mile an hour all the way.
Oh man, that's amazing. I could ask about every single picture you posted, but I'm curious of like what's some of the your favorite stories that you've kind of learned along the way when you've been digging into the history of this, or your grandfather or father telling you a story. What's something that kind of really sticks out that you either want to recreate or just it's burned into your memory?
Um, I like that the car kind of did everything. So there's the stories of it. It just, my nan ran all over Herefordshire, the county where she lived in it. That that was her car, always up and down everywhere. I love that. My dad tells stories of how after he learnt to drive, they would have six, sometimes seven people would do a 10-mile trip to Worcester to go out to the dances, as it was called then, for a night out. And they would, almost be having to get out on the hills to, let it get up there. And yeah, and probably finally, I really love that it was my dad's first work car. And my dad fixed hoovers, vacuum cleaners. That was his first job. And if you look at the photos closely, there's a little Hoover sticker on the side of the wing mirror, on the windscreen, and that's the original sticker still on there from the 70s. That that was to sort of just a little hark back to my dad and what he did. But I mean, yeah, there's loads of stories. There's some old photos somewhere of it covered in stickers. I know my auntie swapped it for a tiny steering wheel because that was a thing they did in the 70s, and my granddad went mental. Stories about getting wet feet on a wet day. All sorts. And yeah, it's funny, my dad. I imagine my dad going to work in it, and I've still got the odd cigarette burn in the back seat, 'cause they're original back seats, and that's quite cool that it was my dad's first work car, and he's come a long way.
That's awesome. I love it. Like I said, I mean, this one's just chock full of history, photos, and everything like that. What's been your favorite part about the restoration process? And for those that maybe don't follow, what stage are you at? Are you completely done with the car right now, or is there a little bit left to go?
Favorite part for me, I suppose a favorite part for me is all the bits I've done. Sounds a bit selfish, but yeah. So things like I got an engine back built that's pretty, it's pretty ugly. It was stripped of paint, stripped of everything. It was built and ready to fire up, kind of thing. But I really enjoyed bolting on the clean bits and bolting on the bits that I'd refurbed and bringing all the bits that I'd project managed kind of together, and then doing the paint myself. So I did the paint on the engine myself. A lot of the components I painted myself, and I kind of learned that process. Some of it's base and clear, some of it's gloss, and I kind of learned that just in my shed. So that was really cool, and just learning about every part of it. Really, learn about how the car works and works together. Because before this, all I'd done was I converted an electrician's van into a camper van, and that's mainly kind of cosmetic-y type stuff, I suppose. There's a lot of woodworky type stuff, but not a lot of mechanicking.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's my favourite bit. And then stage I'm at the moment, so it's done its first kind of journeys. I've only done about 15 mile in it, and I've at the paint when the paint was done, there's a couple of blemishes on the inside of the door, nothing major at all. The guy who did the paint was unbelievable, but there's a couple of points where I think it had been hung up or rested against something that were marks I wasn't happy with. So it's currently back with the real Minico, who said, ultimately you've paid for a paint job and it should be right, and they've been very kind to get it sent back to that gentleman to get those bits touched up. And it's got a little bit of an oil leak. I'm not too worried about it. It's one of the original gearbox casings, and from what I gather, they were pretty much always leaky. I'm seeing if that can get done while it's there, but if not, I'll just keep topping it up. So yeah, it's there, and then once the doors are painted, door cards go on. Hopefully, probably get a bit of ceramic coat, and I've got it booked for its first show on the 10th of September. So I get to kind of show it off a little bit then. That'll be nice.
Oh, that would be fun. That'd be fun to kind of, because I saw you guys took the painted shell, I believe, to a show and kind of showed it off, which was super cool. So it'd be cool to have like the finished project and a beautiful restoration of an early Mark One. Very cool. Is this your first like classic car that you've owned? Have you been a
Yeah,
car
yeah,
guy or anything like that?
yeah. So I'd say for the last, probably what helped me buy it, to be honest, was for the last 5 years I've always wanted something. I've always quite liked modern classics, to be honest, modern classics. I like some of the retro, like the first Renault Clio 172 Cups and the stuff that when I was a kid and started driving I couldn't afford. And so I always thought I'd have something. But not a classic, no, and not a Mini either. I mean, it was weirdly actually, it was a Mini was the first car I drove after a mate of my dad gave it to us to drive around a little paddock, little field that we had at home, and that was a Mini Mayfair, and it was rotten, so rotten. And yeah, we eventually killed that. But no, I've always liked cars. I've always liked things like that, but I just never thought it'd be a classic, and I never thought it'd be yes a Mini. So yeah, I've always said I'd have a Caterham in the garage if you know what that is, Caterham 7, Lotus 7,
That's
something like that. But not a Mini.
that's fun. I love that, and it kind of ties back into maybe for me why I was so intrigued by this story in your Instagram is because it, a lot of times, and a lot of people that I've talked to are, already classic car owners or, car people growing up. And this one just, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, it just kind of seemed different because it was the family car. It was like you guys, your grandparents bought this, had it. Your dad grew up with it. Your aunts learned how to drive it, and all of this stuff. It wasn't like your necessarily like your dad's hot rod back in the day type of thing. It was like a family car, and that's kind of what the Mini was back then, and that to see is super cool. Like I said, I talked to a lot of people that are just I got the Mustangs or the Minis or whatever other classic car, and that's why this one kind of a little bit of a different story than what we usually talk about on here. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, yeah, and I think there's a lot of people out there that will buy a Mini because that's what they first drove, or it's nostalgia. These cars are really popular, especially over in the UK, because nostalgia is what they remember when they were a kid. But
Hmm.
for me, it's like the easiest decision to make of buying a car ever. I wasn't shopping around. I wasn't, oh, is this a good one or not, and trying to find the right one to restore it. It's just a case of, is that car or nothing? I've got to go for it. So yeah, it's a double whammy really. It's nostalgia for my dad, and yeah, I love that I could just get in it, and I've left little nicks and bits. I've got like the kick plates when you get in. I've left them a bit dented, and I'm happy with that because I like that. That was probably my granddad or my nan or and my son. He'll be able to drive the car and say, oh, I like that. My great granddad drove this, and my great grandmother learned to drive this. There's not many people out there that can say that.
No, no, not at all. Super special. Love that. So what's the plans going into the future? Are you gonna kind of keep it a show car? Are you gonna try to drive it weekend drives? What's your plan for it?
Yeah, so it's definitely not going to be. I've always said I don't want it to be a trailer queen. I don't want it to be a just show car because there's quite a lot of them out there, and it needs to be driven. Like the fun of this thing is just pootling up the road in it, and the smiles and the waves and stuff. It's. I mean, I've done 12 mile and I've had as many smiles I think of people and waves and things. It's just awesome. So no, I think it'll be a dry day car if I can because it's a mini and they don't like being wet. I'm going to show it, while it's in the condition it's in now. I've entered the concourse. I don't think it's probably ready for concourse, but I think it's worthy of being front and center and sharing the story. And if I get a pat on the back and somebody tells me there's a scratch in my windscreen, so I haven't won, who cares? But I wanna show it off. So I've got a little trailer. I don't want to do big miles in it. If I've got a show 2 hours drive away, I'd rather get it there in a pretty good nick or get it close. So my plan will always be that I'll trailer it. Ideally, if I can, sort of trailer it within 20 mile, find somewhere I can park at, and then go from there. So whether it be a friend's house or somewhere that belongs to my work, then I'll try and do that. Leave the trailer there, and then drive the mini and get a little journey. But yeah, I mean, first journey was seeing my granddad. Second journey, my boy was at nursery. Me and my wife were off work. I was like, we're going for breakfast, and we just went up to a beautiful little village up here in the Cotswolds, about 4 mile away, and went and had breakfast. So yeah, that's the sort of drive I'll do. Evening car meets, Sunday drives. Why not? You got to drive these things.
100%. I respect that for sure. I love, they're a driver's car. They're meant to be driven, but taking it, it's such a cherished part of story and everything. So I understand trailering it to a show and stuff like that because it's a great resto, and I think it deserves that. So that's fun. I like that. I hope you guys really enjoy it. A beautiful job, and congratulations on it. Do you have does this give you an itch to get any more minis? Does it give you an itch to start another project? Anything else that you might want to kind of tackle now that you've done this?
I've said in my head a couple of times as I've been building this that I'd like to do a mini, but a bit of a stupid one where I can do what I want with it. Um, this one I've had to go original, I've had to go stock, I've had to, everything has to be as it should be, and I would love to do one that's a little bit quick, a little bit good at stopping, that's a bit more that I feel like I can just go out and just go silly in it, on the rainy days or whatever. I could just go out for a blast. So yeah, not yet. I need to let the bank balance recover from this one, I think. But yeah, I think there'll be another car in the future. I think the catering might be a good compromise, and maybe I'll do a kit or a partial kit, one of them or something, when I've got the garage space, and I'll go and have something to go crazy in or something to go slowly in, and have a nice balance there.
I think that's a fantastic idea, and I think everyone should kind of experience that with the mini. Is have one that you not don't care about, but one that's not as valuable maybe as that Mark One, maybe an older Rover, and modify, get a little go fast bits on there, wider tires, wider wheels, things like that, and just to experience both sides of it. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, yeah. Like I say, I mean, they're easy to fit in the garage, aren't they? But this one takes up most of mine already. So yeah, we'll work on that one. Not just yet, but yeah, we'll work on that one.
I love it. I love it. Well, Jamie, I know that you've seen a few episodes here. Are you prepared for the Patty probe? So I think the first question, now that you're thinking about possibly getting another mini project, what's your favorite mini variant?
It has to probably be a Mark One Cooper S. I'm sorry if everybody says that, but I love the Mark One, and then to go and make it quicker and a little bit more stylish, I think yeah, Mark One Cooper S.
Can't go wrong with that answer. Now, I'm interested to hear on this one because you're saying you want to kind of make it go faster, modify it a little bit. Would you go crazy? Would you do A series, Honda swap, or something else?
A series. I'd love to tap into like the old boys of the mini world that used to just get the little engines to go like the clappers. I think that'd be really cool. I think it'd be nice to do a retro sort of
Y-
70s A series engine. I think that'd be good fun.
yeah, I think that's the appeal to me. Why I don't want to do another swap is because it's kind of cool to get that little A series to push out 100 plus horsepower. It's that's
Yeah,
interesting to me that you could do that and it's rowdy.
yeah, and there's so many ways as well. And the straight cut gears and that. Like I've been to a few shows, and straight cut gears just sound really cool. And yeah, I think that'd be a really cool, and it'd be a really good way to learn everything about that engine because all the little changes that add up to those horses, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure. This is one I don't think I've done very often, but in your case, I feel like this might be an interesting one to hear what you have to say. But if your mini could talk, what do you think it would say? What story do you think it would remember?
If it could talk, I think it'd talk in like a, come over here, young man. Let me tell you a story. I feel like it would. That's how it would chat to me, and it would just carry on spinning stories until you fell asleep. What story would it tell? I've heard. I don't know. It'd probably tell a story that would disturb me because I think my dad did a bit of dating in that car. So I tried to think what that story would be. But let's just say the little trips out with their mates. I think that'd be good fun. That'd be good to hear some of the stupid stuff they probably did as kids, and
That's
no
epic.
doubt
And you have
handbrake
the
turns and
original
all
rear
sorts.
seats, huh?
Yeah, might regret that
Next
decision.
question. That's awesome. If you could have a drink, coffee, beer, tea with one mini celeb, who would it be?
Dead or alive?
Dead or alive? Anybody?
Hard. Um, I mean, John Cooper would be awesome, but I think he'd know too much. He'd probably be insulted by my ignorance of the Mini. Um, I think Alec Izagonis would be quite cool. I think that would probably be my choice in that you just go, why have you done that? Like there's some stuff in there like, really? That's how we're going to do it? Yes. If you don't know, like for example, the indicator setup on a Mark One, like what were you thinking, man? Who did you let design that most complicated thing just for a bloody flashing light and a horn? I think it does, but it's the most complicated thing in the world. Yeah, that'd probably me. Yeah, that'd be cool. Go and have a nice beer somewhere, quiet beer with Alec Izagiannis, and work out what he was thinking
That's
with half of the
hilarious.
design.
I love that. So after tackling pretty much a full restoration, either your car or just the Mini in general, like you talked about the indicator stock. If you had the ability to go back and change something about the Mini, what would it be,
What would it be? That's tough.
if anything?
I mean, back then, I don't. Yeah, if I could go back and change anything, it would probably be. I mean, they could have made it a little bit higher, couldn't they? Let's be honest. I feel like my head's touching the roof half the time when I'm not even that tall. But then it would just look weird. I don't know. I think it's pretty good. I mean, my car was made at a time when they made loads of changes a few months later. So, I mean, on my car, you could change
Yeah.
pretty much everything to make it better, but that's kind of what they did eventually. So, if I go back and change anything on mine, probably just make it a little bit quicker. But that's judging by today's road standards, um, and yeah, if it could stop a bit quicker, that'd be nice. It's a little bit, yeah. Sometimes you have to see into the future. I think I haven't done many miles in it, but it takes some getting used to.
And I mean, that wouldn't be so bad. You could look into some period correct 60s mods, some Cooper S brakes or something like that, or even a little, upgrade in the carbs or something like that, exhaust or whatever. There's always that's my style for a car like yours is, period correct. It's a 60s car. Your dad owned it or your grandfather owned it in 65. Cooper S was coming out, getting popular then. So you never know. That could be a cool little thing that's, you know, reversible, if you will.
Yeah, I think discs. Yeah, I was really torn on discs and that lot, and I kind of went with twin lead and shoe. But I think, yeah, to make it more drivable, that might be something to look at. But I mean, it's interesting because obviously my granddad owned it in the 70s, as did my aunts and stuff. I've actually backdated it with a few bits. They had twin horns on there as an example, because apparently that was something you had to have in the 70s because the little front horn rusted up and they just put twin horns on it. And there was a few little bits that they had changed for whatever bizarre reason that I managed to find old stock and put it back. But yeah, I think I don't think we're done with it yet. There'll be a few bits in the future, I think.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, Jamie, I appreciate you being on. Is there anything else you want the people to know? Everyone go follow his journey with JEU underscore 311. Go check that out. Anything else you want the people to know?
No, I don't think so. No, just come along and yeah, see what there is. If you ever see a post saying help, please, be kind. Realise how ignorant I am in the mini world, and how this is all new. I'm wading through every problem at a time. There's a lot of experts out there in social media land that are quick to say, oh, don't do it like that, but not necessarily tell you how you should do it. And I think they forget sometimes that they did it for a first time once as well. So yeah, that's all I can say is, yeah, come on the journey and support me if you can when I need it. That'd be good.
Hey, I love that. I love that. Listen, I think you did a great job, and I think you did your family proud with this one. So kudos to you, and enjoy the mini, and I will catch you guys on the next one.
Lovely. Thanks so much.